Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Or good afternoon, Ted. Good evening, David.
Hello. The audio works this time?
Yeah.
David, I don't hear you very well. Maybe better now, yeah.
Now it's better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay. Just quickly. Okay, I think everyone can see a note well shared. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep, looks like it. Good. Okay, I'll just remind us all, this is a IETF meeting. It is recorded. The note well applies just like every other IETF meeting. I believe all the participants here are well aware of this. So now that we have the necessary bit out of the way, I just have to unshare this and we can get on with our work. Which is, let's get to open issues and see what we can resolve today. And let's reserve some time to talk about IETF 124 ESCO. You had some comments on that on the mailing list, on the requests for content that I sent out to the working group. And we'll save some time to discuss that maybe toward the end of this. Anything else that we want to put on the agenda today, folks? Or change on that agenda?
No, I don't think so. Looks good.
Yeah, I think everything that we would want to talk about is probably in the issue tracker somewhere.
That's right.
Well, except for what ESCO. Oh, okay, I see. Yes, I talked about it today on the first part of this. Yeah, great. Let's pull them up locally, and we will get to work.
Yeah, I can actually share my screen if you want. I don't know if that helps, or we can look locally, but what you prefer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'll just request that. Now, which screen is going to be shared? Let's try out. Whoa, this looks nice.
Esco, your audio is really pessimal.
Oh, not good.
See some river behind you.
Like the river. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's maybe in one of the canals.
That means it changed microphone again.
Ah, now it's pretty well.
Much better.
Switches to the microphone array on the laptop. which it shouldn't, but well, it just does. Right. Okay. Good, that's better. So I think Ted, you had the one issue added there. Also interesting.
Yep, I can talk about that if you want.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because it's a continuation of the thing we had last time, right? So the state machine.
Yeah. So there were a bunch of things we talked about last time that kind of fed into the state machine discussion. And when I went to try and modify the state machine, I realized actually that, so I kind of, I mean, we originally had state machines that were sort of shared between AIL and StubNet, and that didn't really work very well. And so the idea was maybe add a whole new state machine. But there was a simplifying assumption that I figured out, which is that I was thinking of state machines 1 and 2 in the issue here as being a single state machine, and that made things a lot harder to do in a sort of adjacent link agnostic way. So by splitting it out into 4 state machines instead of like kind of, well, basically by splitting it out the way I describe here, it actually makes things, I think, quite a bit simpler. It's still not 100% simple, and there are still definitely some things where we're going to have to say on the AIL you do this, and on SNAC, on the Stub network you do this. But I think it's less bad that way. So, and I think it'll be easier to understand if we don't have 2 state machines, for example, for tracking routes that are almost the same but slightly different. So this is the way I kind of propose to go forward. So the big change is separating out the tracking routers and acting as a router. So tracking routers meaning listening for router advertisement messages, periodically pinging routers to make sure they're still reachable, keeping track of what prefixes have been advertised and what routes have been advertised by routers on the link. And then the publisher, its job is just to figure out, based on what the router tracker is seeing, whether or not to publish a prefix, like a usable prefix on the link. So that could be like on the AIL, the usable prefix it's publishing is if there's no IPv6 service on that link, or if there's no usable prefix on that link. And then on the StubNet, the usable prefix is just, if nobody's publishing a prefix on the StubNet, I guess I'd better. So it's a little simpler. But not that much simpler. They're really very similar. The big difference is on the StubNet, we would actually care about, like if somebody else is publishing a prefix, then we would do the comparison between the prefixes to decide who stops publishing. And then this also, like, I mean, the thing that originally motivated all of this was that I realized that the NAT64 state machine was really deeply tied to the router tracking state machine. So it didn't make sense to have you know, the same stuff from the router tracking state machine also in the NAT64 state machine. So I don't know that everybody needs to deeply understand this, but I think it would be worth taking a look at to see if you notice anything that I missed in my description. There are already some open issues talking about things that the state machines need to do that I didn't cover in here because there are already open issues about them. But obviously those also need to be handled here. So
I actually looked in an implementation of this in the past couple of days.
oh, cool.
OpenThread has implemented exactly this way with the separate state machine for the tracker, basically. So it's a separate tracker component that supplies the information to the other components. So yeah, that looks familiar.
Yeah, probably evidence that Abington is a lot smarter than me.
Okay, maybe he also tried different approaches before ending up with this, but
yep.
But yeah, it looks pretty neat. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I mean, that the bad news is that means I haven't written those state machines yet, but at least I now think I know what to write. So because the big thing that was holding me back was just I was like kind of stuck on how to solve the problem that we had driven ourselves into, and this was what finally occurred to me. I should have just read the open thread code, and then I would have known.
Yeah, maybe. could help, but you can still do that if you want.
In my copious free time. It's all written in C++. That makes it hard.
Yeah, it's C++. Yeah. Yeah. So one thing you could consider is, okay, do we really want to dive into this level of detail? We could stay like one level up higher, but I think that has the problem that we don't actually specify everything we want to specify, right? So,
Yeah, I think the problem is if we don't do it like this, I think we're going to wind up with a bunch of hand waving in the state machine descriptions. And then why did we write a state machine description at all? Why not just do the hand waving without the state machine?
yeah, and then would be pure sentences and hand waving, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it seems worth doing it this way, I think.
Okay, cool.
Okay, do you want to assign yourself there?
Oh, I didn't assign it to anybody. Yeah, that should be assigned to me. If you want to do it, you can, or I can.
Yeah, it already shows up. Okay, yeah, so we could continue for issues or PRs. I think, I don't know if anyone has a preference here. There's some new things that were added here for issues and also for PRs. I think you.
Yeah, I saw you did a
This one.
PR and I commented on it a bit. The editorial PR.
Yeah. Overall, I didn't read that yet, but overall, did that look okay to change?
Yeah, it looks fine. It
combination?
looks fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you did was very good, and I just had a few minor comments.
Okay. But still, some updates are needed then. I'm not sure. Yeah, that needs some work after the meeting then. Do we need other people to agree on this, or can we just say, okay, we just go ahead and?
I mean, this is not normative, so you're literally just fixing some editorial stuff. So I think personally, I don't object to you applying this change, with or without my comments. I mean, even if you didn't take my comments, it's still fine.
Okay, yeah. So this can go ahead then. There's a couple of other PRs there we have, recent ones. Maybe I'll just open number 2.
Yeah, I also read over this one and it looks fine.
Yeah, so the essential part was saying that, okay, the address could be DHCP v6 managed or using another method if the A flag is not set. So just to clarify that.
Yep.
I wasn't too sure what the policy on tabs is, so I think now I have everything with 2 tabs here. But okay. It's not too strict.
Yeah, I don't think I cared about tabs in this one. Sometimes I use spaces because some other code that I edit is spaces only, but it's fine.
Yeah. So basically, for the record, I could request you as a reviewer, and then you might approve it, right? And then.
Yeah, I can approve that right away because I've already reviewed it.
Yeah, and then we have it recorded, and then can be merged, I guess. It's in a way also editorial. Oh yeah, this was one for an issue I filed myself. So the caps usage. So we said in issue it would be mostly lowercase to make the text better readable. And it's also, I noticed it's also most common for terms used in other RFCs that we import. I did keep it in the section titles, basically. It's not consistent there, but that's maybe another issue if you want to look at that. I'm not too worried about that. So just open it to give some examples here. For example, yeah, here's stub routers written with lowercase. And also these things like EULA, site prefix, and link prefix is also lowercase now. Yeah, I think for the router advertisement messages, I still kept capitals, so like for the RA. I think that's pretty common. But yeah, if needed, we can also change that.
So you actually capitalized in a case where it was lowercase at the end, but this looks fine to me.
Yeah, let's have a look. Oh yeah, that's here. Yeah, because that's just for consistency and
Yep.
yeah. Okay. So I'll request you as well. Then, if you say it looks fine, you can give the approval, and then I can probably merge it, which is handy because then. I noticed with these editorial PRs are nice, but if you merge them too late, you get into all kinds of conflicts later on. That's merge conflicts, basically.
Yep.
Okay, then we have handle and bits. And let's see if I... Oh yeah, I made a comment on that. That was more for Darren, so I think the PR was actually chasing not the part that was mentioned in the original issues. So I think the original issue was about MO flags as advertised on the AIL.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think did I push a change that fixed that, or is it still sitting in my repo? Let me see.
It doesn't
No, I
record
didn't.
here.
Doesn't look like I pushed the change.
Okay.
Okay, let me go and do that.
Okay. Is that really quick, or should we move on?
Yeah, move on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then we can revisit this one later. Let's see if there was anything more. Oh yeah, this I had a little bit of comment on the fact that I think it does not fix 139. So I created issue 139 as a kind of discussion for, let's say, approaches we can use to what to do in a case two AILs appear, for example, accidentally. So can we do some simple things that cover most of the cases and leave the complex cases for the future? And this was more about, this PR was more about, okay, we want to describe in an appendix, the multi-AIL scenario and exactly what happens. Yeah, which is more describing what our solution will do in that case. And 139 was more about, okay, what is our solution for that case? So what we don't want to end up with is basically that adding a second AIL disrupts and breaks everything. Maybe this should be a sort of graceful fallback in a way that something stops working, but not the entire network setup. So I've made some comments on 139 to proceed with that, and that's also, I think, something we can do in a future interim or even in the Montreal meeting, for example, if you have people there interested. So you can go into more details there of possible fixes and approaches.
So that one you'd comment that this wasn't a fix for 139, right?
Yeah. So it would fix 115 actually, because that says, oh, we need a diagram multi-IL. I think what it should do is also include such a diagram and maybe have a TBD or the to-do there in case we don't know exactly what happens, or maybe have the current text and then fix it later on. I think this one mentioned initially that it falls back to manual configuration.
So sorry, what were you saying that should be changed in addition to what's there now? I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, I think there are two options basically. So either we just go ahead with this and add the diagram and add the appendix. And accept that maybe later on we need to update it based on 139. Or what we could do is we make this one, we include the diagram, but instead of saying what exactly happens, we put there a to-do or a TBD. So to say, working group still needs to discuss what happens exactly in that case. I think that also had a proposal here.
Okay, and so I guess the routing considerations and packet flow part, then you would think leave that to 139. Is that what you mean? That whole section?
Yeah, let's see. That was here. I think there was a packet routing example.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it now. Okay, maybe I need to check that in more detail. It could be that some information is missing there, like, okay, what is, for example, advertised as a prefix information option, what is in the route information option. Not sure if it's all there, but
yeah.
And this is also, yeah, what should we do in the appendix? It says, okay, should not advertise. Are we giving a negative example of this is how the protocol is not doing it, or I'm not sure if I try to catch the meaning potential problem.
So the problem with advertising default routes is that it requires that well, so first of all, I mean, the only time you can advertise a default route is when you have a delegated prefix. So if you have a delegated prefix and you advertise a default route, then if a host is behaving as we hope it would, but which I don't think many hosts do at this point, it would actually choose the default route from the router that advertised the source address that it selected, and that would actually work. This is for sort of the Wi-Fi routing case where we're doing router advertisements on both ends. So in that case, it would be fine, and maybe it's okay to say that, because it's kind of not our problem if the hosts don't support that. And this is a sort of a weird edge case anyway. There are additional challenges if there are multiple upstreams on a single AIL, but that's a separate issue, and I think that's also handled kind of the same way. And I don't think we really need to talk about that specifically here because it's not stub router specific. It's just a routing issue that everybody has. So we could say the problem we have is that in the case that I mean, we're dealing with sort of the generic, like solving the problem for stub routers using existing technology. But we also have an example implementation, and that's Thread. And Thread doesn't do it this way because Thread has constrained tables. The routing table on Thread needs to be really small because it's being distributed regularly over the network. And so we don't want to put a lot of information in that table. So it might be worth thinking about what we could do that would make it work for such cases. And that might be that we just pick like one router to be the one that does the default route. And since there's only going to be one, we're not expecting, like if there's two stub routers connected to two separate AILs, actually the expected behavior is only one of them is going to get a prefix delegation, and that's the one that's going to be numbering the network. And if there's already a prefix delegation numbering the network, we would expect the second stub router not to get a prefix delegation. That's actually true in all cases. So we could say whichever one gets the prefix delegation advertises the default route, and whichever one doesn't get the prefix delegation doesn't advertise the default route. And that would actually solve the problem pretty cleanly. And that means the stub network now does not have redundant uplinks in the case where it otherwise could. But I don't think we really care about, like, we're not really trying to solve that problem. That problem should be solved on the infrastructure link, not on the stub router. So not on the stub network. Like on an infrastructure link, you would expect that if there are multiple northbound routers advertising prefixes, that it's all going to work correctly. But on a stub net, that shouldn't really ever happen. If it does happen, it's just kind of weird, and we don't even like, we're doing this very much ad hoc, and so there's no way that we could even know, because there isn't a we, right? There isn't a person there figuring this out. There's no way that like a dumb device is going to be able to figure out which one to prefer. And so basically, it's just going to be down to chance anyway. But the thing we want to make sure of is that if we advertise, if one of the stub routers that's connected to a different AIL doesn't advertise a default route, ideally we would like it to advertise a route that works. And that's where I think ESCO was talking about different cases that we could consider. Like, for example, suppose there's just some weird partition where, you know, something gets unplugged, and so we have connectivity to two different networks, both of which have devices that might want to communicate with stub network devices, only one of which is actually connected to the ISP anymore, and the other one's just sitting there with no DHCP server or anything. And in that case, that's actually not too hard to solve, because we're going to advertise an upstream prefix, and we could just advertise a route only to that prefix. That's relatively compact. I think that would basically work.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but it would work. And it's a rare use case anyway. So if it happens sometimes and it's not ideal, it's probably better to make it work than it is to try to, you know, best of the enemy of good enough. There's also the case where we have two legitimate AILs that are actually real networks with real addressing and so forth on them. And in that case, we get into the situation where there's not an easy way to advertise a single route that covers everything. For Thread, we actually, thus far, have not even solved this problem. One way we could solve it is to say, don't advertise, like you know, if we have this situation, then when a router gets a packet that's sent to it based on its default route, it just looks at that packet and figures out whether it can route it. And if it can't, I guess we talked about this last time. If it can't, then it figures out which router to forward it to. But that means that now the routers have to share information about who can handle what routes. So basically that means that every stub router needs to be able to do routing decisions on behalf of all of the stub routers. And that means that we have to have some kind of protocol for managing the routing tables on these routers. And that could be Babel, or it could be, oh God, what's the IoT one? I remember this last week. But it's
Ripple, maybe?
Ripple, thank you. Yeah, Ripple. Yeah, but so basically something like that. We want to make it as minimally chatty as possible, of course, which maybe, I'm not sure how chatty Babel is. But that could be a way to solve it. And then basically, like, if we have multiple SNAC routers that all have AILs that all have default routes, then we just do what any network would have to do, which is routing. But it feels a little bit like, my God, why are we making our SNAC network this complicated? So I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe we could just declare that out of scope for SNAC simple.
Yeah, that sounds like a good thing to do. And yeah, I think
so Mike, if I understand that, Ted, you basically summarize this by saying two different routers on two different AILs are out of scope for on the same stub network, or out of scope for SNAC simple in general.
So
fine with me.
So let's be careful here, because for SNAC simple, well, so first of all, I guess we can only really have a default route on one router. We already figured that out. So maybe that's not an issue. And that means that any other routes that are going to be advertised are going to be individual routes, or maybe aggregate routes, like a ULA/48, for example. could be an aggregate route that gets advertised. So all devices on this ULA go out this stub router. All devices on this ULA go out this stub router. And as long as we're using router advertisements on the stub network, that works fine. The thing that's out of scope is solving the problem of what if we can't afford to advertise all of those routes. So for like a Wi-Fi or an Ethernet, we can just advertise all the routes, problem solved. The devices pick which router to use. We don't have to do any special stuff. And then basically we could just actually, maybe the thing to do is just say, this is really a problem for the Thread guys. They can go figure out their own problem. Or if we really want to solve this for like the generic IoT use case, like if there are other IoT networks where we have the same issue that Thread has, then that could just be a follow-on document that talks about how we do that. Or maybe we can just point to Ripple and say use Ripple or something like that. I don't actually know how to answer that question. Maybe someone, I mean, Michael used to be the chair of the Ripple working group, so maybe he knows the answer to this question and can make a suggestion. I literally have no knowledge of how Ripple works.
Oh, I did look into it a lot in the past.
Okay.
So I attended some working group sessions a while ago. Yeah. So yeah, basically using Ripple or Babel is maybe out of scope for now.
Yeah.
I think the
It feels
routing.
like, yeah. It feels like it's a thing we could do as a follow-on document that's IoT specific if we care about it, like if we feel like it's needed.
Yeah, so I think for the routing, you have some basically some solutions there that seems fine, and there is this aspect of basically discoverability that I mentioned in 139 also. So routing is just one of the goals, of course, of SNAC. The other was bidirectional discoverability, and there you also run into some problems with two AILs basically, because a client on the Stub network will only register itself once using SRP and will only query once into a domain using DNS. So that means that whatever the query or the message is, it goes to one and only one stub router. That's how the protocol is defined. And now, yeah, the problem is, what if that's the wrong one? So I also suggest, I think, I'm not sure if I did put it already there, but I was also thinking about solutions for that case, a lot of sort of graceful fallback cases, so that you basically make sure that the discovery takes place at the best AIL, so the one that has the default route and the CE router, and not the other one, basically. So the other link that somebody just plugs in, that should basically disable itself for discoverability. So that's kind of a simple solution, but it works and it doesn't break things. And you can get even if you get into a weird state, you can get back to the original state by just turning off the router and then turning it back on later. So I think that would be a simple solution, something like that.
Yeah, this is also a situation where I think Thread makes life more complicated. So if we're talking about the general case, then something like the full service DNSSD resolver work that's being done in the DNSSD working group would actually address the problem pretty well, which is basically if you've got multiple AILs, then you use the configurations for both AILs and in such a way that when a query goes to either of the DNS resolvers, whichever one you query just queries the other one for the additional information in whatever subdomain is appropriate for that router. But it's a bit of an unsolved problem, and yeah, it's making the thing is, like, you might have a case where you've got it's not necessarily clear that the AIL with infrastructure is the one that's got the most IoT devices on it. It could just as well be that the IoT network is the one that got partitioned off and doesn't anymore have a DHCP server. And in that case, you still want to be able to discover those IoT devices. So I think there still needs to be a way to make that work. And that's a bit of an unsolved problem, and I don't think it's a problem we're going to solve in SNAC Simple. I don't think we like SNAC Simple would be like sitting in the yet to be published queue for potentially years if we wait for that solution. Yeah, I think that's a good plan. So,
But still, I think for simple, you would have some maybe simple or default kind of fallback measures that at least make sure that
Mhm.
if you connect it in the wrong way, that that it's does as least damage as possible. Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, the user just has to like, I mean, it's really hard because basically we're trying to not have a knowledgeable user here, and so that means that if something goes wrong, there isn't somebody there that can fix it, and I
Well,
think then it just fails.
I was thinking like it should be fixable by just turning something off and then on again, and then magically it works. That's kind of a typical
Yeah.
way of
Yeah.
fixing that you need a lot with computers as well, and all these devices. So if you can piggyback on that, so not requiring configuration of the user, but rather that the user can just switch something off and on and it works again. Yeah, that's better.
Mm.
But I don't expect full with two AILs like full service discovery on both ILs or three AILs. So that's maybe a bit too much. And as you said, the other document in DNS-SD is also covering that maybe.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
but I still had a question about this description here. So we want to describe what happens with basically current SNAC rules. I'm not sure if we want to describe what would happen if these SNAC rules would not be there. So basically, so we probably don't want to describe in detail the problem that we have already solved. I think it would be more like explaining what does happen with SNAC routers, basically in this case. So that's I just wanted to check, like, what do we explain in this appendix? So there can be problem cases, that's fine, but it should be based on what SNAC routers are actually doing.
Right. So this problem case wouldn't occur if we were advertising RAs, if everybody was advertising RAs for all of the routes, or all the individual routes that they saw as reachable, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think maybe what we need to do is, I'm not sure what to do first. So you can first, let's say, merge the example and then update it later, or
Yeah. So let's strip it right back to only what we know, which is just the initial example.
Sounds good.
yeah, maybe that's good. And I can reserve some space for more.
Okay.
And also
Yeah, we can,
explain.
if we, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say, and also explain maybe later on what happens to the service discovery. So it's not just about IP reachability, but also who can discover who by name.
So that I guess just from an interop level, we just need to say what happens with route advertising in this case, and then leave everything else unsaid. Right? Like what is the SNAC router? What must the SNAC router do?
Mhm.
And then don't talk about anything else. Maybe we just restrict ourselves to just that.
Yep.
Yeah, and then use the example there.
Okay.
Okay. So that means an update, I guess, for this one. I didn't read this one properly yet from Ted, but okay.
No, that basically we talked about everything in there.
That's okay.
Yeah.
This was requested changes. So, okay. Yeah. And there we have comments from Michael. I did copy that to, I think I copied this one. Yeah, the pool house and the main house. Yeah, I copied that one to the issue 139 basically, because it was relevant there. So you could have different scenarios exercised, like two AAL. So how did it get there? Was it kind of split because somebody pulled the wire, or how long was it split, or was it made like that on purpose? So there are many different scenarios there that you could think about. Don't think we should write all of them in the document, but it's good to consider for 139 at least. And he mentioned the numbering, so you can use this 3FF FF prefix as example IP addresses or documentation IP addresses. That's not ULAs then, but okay, if you need global or GUI addresses. I don't think we have example ULAs, right?
I don't know.
No, I guess not. Okay, but anyway, I took this comment also for the wider issue, so it doesn't get lost. I think these PRs we talked about last time, right? So it was still the state machine thing. That was already a bit old.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I think this gets updated a bit also based on the stuff I was talking about earlier. So, so we'll need to do a new pass over that before, and you know, I'll take Darren's comments into account because he found some just plain old errors in the current spec.
All right. Yeah, so I'm now opening the issues again. So do we want to look at those maybe?
Sure.
The question is, where did we end up last time?
So we started from the bottom.
Yeah, that I know. Yeah. Page 2 was basically.
Yeah, I think. I think we were done with page 2.
Yeah, some people signed here. Also have people assigned here.
Yeah, I think the probably the one that we didn't get to was the multi-router IPv6 networks one.
Oh yeah, there was a comment I think from Fernando about related work. So that's what we describe will likely lead to multi-IPv6, multi-router, multi-prefix scenario. Then he's pointing to some other work here.
Yeah.
So 6-man multi-IPv6 and v6 ops multi-IPv6.
Yep. Yeah, so that's the stuff I was alluding to earlier, I think, which is just like, what do we have to do to make things work with multi-IPv6 networks? But actually, I think that work is all essentially on the host. So, I mean, we could actually, there's one thing we could do if we wanted to, which I hadn't thought of before, which is to say, if we track what routes are being advertised, and we have to track what routes are being advertised on a stub network, that means we're also going to be tracking what prefixes are advertised on a stub network and who advertised them. And that means that if we have multiple, if we have a multi-router, well, actually, no. So we already said we were only going to do one prefix delegation per stub network. And that means that we always have just one source address for that stub network, and therefore we only have one default route. And so that should, so there's actually, I guess what that means is that this doesn't, if that's how we're solving the problem, and I think it is, at least for SNAC Simple, then this comment doesn't apply because we won't have a multi-router, multi-prefix IPv6 network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still must track these things to see if there's already one, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, check if already prefix is available. So that's basically the existing functionality, I think, for the stub prefix.
Yeah. I mean, one small worry is that it can be the case that when a new stub router shows up on a particular stub network, it might not find, like there might be two stub routers, but for whatever reason, the second stub router doesn't detect the first stub router immediately and winds up advertising its own prefix, in which case we could wind up with hosts now having two different source addresses to choose from. But the host should behave correctly in this case because, so if the host has two different source addresses to choose from, it knows which router advertised which source address. And if one of the routers is no longer advertising a default route, which would be the case, right? Because we're going to only advertise a default router for also advertising a PD prefix, then it only has one choice of router. And therefore, in principle, it should only select the prefix as a source address. It should only select the prefix that's still being advertised because that's the only one that matches the router. And it has another router that matches the other prefix, which is not advertising a default route. But I don't know if that's actually what would happen. So,
Okay, if the host would do
This is-
that,
yeah. So actually, maybe this is something to feed back to Fernando. And if you want to assign this to me, I can write up that bit because I realize that what I just said was probably a little incoherent. I understand what I meant, but you probably don't, or maybe you do.
okay, yeah, maybe at high level.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so maybe just put a note in here that Ted's going to document this to explain the temporary two prefix situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I think it was also, we mentioned DHCP, basically, so the stub router that had DHCP would be the best candidate.
Mhm.
I mentioned at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it also Ted here. Yeah, can also think about that. I'm not aware of this word, but it's basically how the host handles these multiple prefixes, right?
I think so. I that's something that Fernando's been working on. I don't
Yeah.
remember off the top of my head if those are the particular documents, but hopefully they are.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah, especially for IoT networks, and then thinking of thread again, there's this limit also in the number of addresses that the device can support. So it doesn't support a unlimited number of prefixes and addresses, so it will somehow make a selection then if there are more prefixes. Maybe 2 is still okay, but 4 definitely not. Okay, so we just did this one. Then we maybe go up. Another review comment, I guess. This is about the network partition healing, which is pretty specific for thread already, I must say. But okay, that's not all IoT networks have partitions, I guess. But okay, in practice they will occur. Yeah, this was the only one prefix should remain. So, well, why not have 2? That's less brittle. So, if suppose the whole thing breaks again in the same way, then you still have your one prefix, stable prefix that's still there. And if the thing merges again, then you have 2 prefixes to choose from.
Yeah,
So that would be more stable and in a way less change.
yeah. I guess one question to ask here is, do we actually need to talk about this in this document? Because it's actually kind of hard to talk about, and it's really, as you say, very specific to thread, at least at the moment. In fact, I guess I already made that comment on March 20th.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
because I mean, this is definitely an interesting problem, but the thing is, the way we sort of address it in thread is not really a way that would make
Yeah.
sense necessarily to address it in a different case. Wi-Fi networks can't get partitioned this way, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just close this as not to be fixed and take out that section. Or actually, no. The fix is the edit that we should do here is to take out that section. Because we do have a section about that.
Yeah, so it kind of leaves that to the specific technology that
Yeah.
has these things called partitions, right? So
Exactly.
okay, proposed fix.
Yeah, I mean, we could mention it in passing, you're right. But
Yeah, looking at some technology. Yeah. We have these behaviors. Just thinking if there is anything general to say about that. So suppose you take other IoT mesh networks, they can become partitioned in a way just physically split, of course, which can happen. But yeah, it's a bit hard to know what will happen exactly then in terms of prefix use. Yeah, but it's only one prefix should remain that is maybe specific to the case that you have these partitions and you want to optimize the network data size. I think it's not really one of the goals we have, right? So optimizing size of these prefixes and
Yeah.
routes.
yeah, not for SNAC.
Maybe we should keep it in mind because one of the targets is IoT. That's yeah, not the main goal. You're right. This was this. Oh, we need an assignment here. Maybe I should look at that, or we want Ted.
I'm very happy if you're willing to take it over.
Okay, I can take a look, see if it works. Could also assign Darren to it, but not sure if he's happy with that.
There we go. Now I clicked the right button.
Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah, go ahead if you want to. I can,
No, it's okay. I will look at this first and
okay.
maybe see one times. Yeah. So this was also from the review, security considerations. Yeah, it's basically talks about IPv6 ND and points to the security considerations for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's suggesting that we need to add more advice because stub routers advertise different prefixes and things might, bounce around if somebody does an attack. But I mean, yeah, I guess it might make sense to talk about that as a possible attack, but we don't really have a mitigation for it. Like the idea being if somebody joins the stub network or somebody joins the infrastructure network and starts advertising a prefix when the only router advertising a prefix is another stub router, then that can force the prefix to change. And then if you do that repeatedly, it's going to make the network unstable. But we could have a mitigation, which is that if we notice that we have published and then unpublished our prefix like a certain number of times, then we just stop unpublishing it.
Okay, that would be a new sort of state for the state.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But here, if I understand correctly, what is mentioned in the problem is somehow different, because that was just said actually is not a security problem, because if someone announced something else, then you have to pick up something. While what's the problem mentioned here is if a malicious SNAC router advertises something totally wrong, it will be perceived as a attack threat. In that case, how the Stub network will react, right? Or I understand totally wrong.
I'm just rereading the text. It says it looks like the mechanism where SNAC routers advertise different prefixes and one of them is picked does introduce a new attack vector. So he doesn't actually give a whole lot of detail there, but I think that what he's talking about is the case where you have a SNAC router that's advertising a prefix and then some malicious device comes on claiming to be a SNAC router and advertises a different prefix that winds up winning out. And then the first SNAC router stops publishing its prefix, and now you can't get to the stub network because the second SNAC router isn't actually a SNAC router, right?
Right.
So
But if it's about an on-link prefix, then it doesn't matter because everyone will look if it's a suitable prefix. And if it's suitable, then it's okay. Then there's not really anything attacked. And the only thing is that you wind up with this cycle of like publishing and unpublishing, which means that the devices on the AIL will change their address all the time.
yeah,
So
which is also always a risk.
Yeah, so you could explain that in the security that's a risk. And maybe the comment was also about the prefix on the stub network, where we said maybe also that one should be winning, right? Or like, I don't know if you have rules for that. So that could be another issue. So you have actually a SNAC router on the same stub network that, I don't know, makes a prefix that forces the other one out to can do the same thing. But I don't know exactly the rules for that. It was too long ago I read the document, so.
Yeah, well, we were just talking in a previous issue about only having one stub router advertising a PD prefix, which now that you mention it, I don't know whether we actually have that as part of the base spec or whether that's thread specific, because we did also talk about what happens if we get two prefixes. So I guess we need to revisit that question and make sure that we actually understand what the plan is, because certainly in the case of a stub network with two AILs, it's also perfectly valid for both stub routers to advertise PD-derived prefixes. And I guess the thing we probably don't want is that if we've got like 5 stub routers all connected to the same AIL that doesn't have IPv6 on it, we probably don't want each of those 5 stub routers to advertise its own prefix on the stub network, because that would be ridiculous. And you know, it certainly could happen if the stub network can form that way. So yeah, we should resolve that question of whether we actually want multiple stub routers advertising prefixes. I'm kind of having just sort of monologue there through that analysis. I kind of feel like we don't.
Yeah, just trying to make some notes. So it depends on the withdrawal rules also.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't say anything about that. Or maybe we did, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think we need to revisit that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So should I put anyone here for the assignment for now?
I guess you have to assign it to me.
Really? Happy to do that.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember. When's our, I think I saw an announcement about a meeting in October for the next SNAC meeting. Is that right?
I think 2 meetings. One is on the 30th of September, and then the other one is the 7th of October.
That is correct. I skipped next week. I had a failure on the multi-schedule tool, and then I missed the deadline for next week, so we have the one the following week.
That's weird. I don't have the.
Right, there was an email about that.
Okay. Oh wait, no, that's October 30th. That's why I don't have it. There we go. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Doesn't stop work from happening next week, but
Yeah.
No, honestly, it's not a bad thing because I actually have some catch up to do at work, and this is it's weird how hard it is to write documents as opposed to writing code. Like writing code for some reason is really easy. Writing documents, it's like pulling teeth.
it's more painful.
Not quite so painful, no, but it's definitely hard for me at least.
And let's see. I think I have made some comments on this issue, but now I don't see them here.
Mm-hmm.
Or was this maybe a related issue? This is about the guest networks, I think. Or maybe there was another comment on guest networks. Could also be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is another comment about guest networks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is comparing something to guest network. Okay, yeah, the comment is, well, we basically compare it to guest network and we assume that the guest networks always isolates the guests.
Mm-hmm.
And now the comment is, well, this need not be the case. So you could have a guest network that does not isolate the guests.
So I think the answer here is pretty obviously just talk about the case where the AIL is isolating the devices, and don't use the term guest network because it's actually not important.
Yeah, it's like comparing it to guest network, right?
Yeah, but we don't need to. We can just say, you could have a network that isolates devices from each other, and in that case, it won't work.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty easy.
Then, I can take that one. It's easy.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, it's looking for the review appendix. There are two things in here. So that's requesting for a rationale for this in the appendix, and some settings in the appendix have the RFC must language, whereas others do not. So I think we had lots of comments on that. I think I was agreeing with Ted here. So what did you say? Is like we do all the normative stuff in the main document, so not in the appendix. And any normative language kind of copies the normative things from the main document, then, right?
Yeah, or we can just refer back to the main document. Right. The challenge with having two versions of the same normative text is if you accidentally create a contradiction,
right?
Then people get confused and they won't know that the one in the appendix is not actually normative. So it's really a lot better to be careful not to make normative statements in the appendix if you can avoid it.
Okay, yeah. And then you can point to the section numbers maybe where there is the normative statement.
Yep.
Right, okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And the other comment was about the rationale that these zeros here. Okay, that can probably be added then, because it's an appendix. We can allow ourselves to be a bit verbose and then explain maybe why that is the case.
Or just reference the section of the document that talks about it.
Yeah, if there is a section there, yeah. Okay. So we try to avoid normative language, reference to section. Yeah, same for the 0 values. Okay, should we auction this one? Who wants to take? Maybe put Darren here. He wants something, or not? If you don't want it,
It's up to you guys. I don't mind. I'll knock off. I'll knock off at least one this week.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll put you there. All right. Okay, getting more appendix comments here. So we say that it's expected all RA options will fit in a single RA. Okay, this ties nicely back to the previous item, because we don't want to have normative language then in the appendix, probably, but there could be a requirement that it should be sent in a single packet, maybe in the main text, or must. I see that here, almost a must.
Yeah. Right. So my comment was just about what the normative language should be. Yeah. Yeah, that should go in the main text, I think. That is not in the appendix. And yeah, so exactly.
Requirements can be added to the main text.
Yeah.
As a shoot down. Do we want to list exceptions, or?
So I think the answer here is that it should we should say must, because in reality, so the neighbor discovery RFC says that a router can send multiple RAs if it needs to, but nobody does that, and it's not clear that hosts support it. Like, we don't actually even know if that works. We don't even know how it works, if it would work.
Yeah.
So I think it's better to just exclude it as a possibility here. There's no reason why a stub router should be sending 2 RAs. The exception that I mentioned with respect to Jen's document is that she's talking about a document where you have a router that might be doing 2 different jobs. And in that case, that router might send an RA for each job, but it uses a different source address for each RA. So effectively, from our perspective, it's 2 different routers. So that's not even really an exception. It's just sort of technically an exception. So we don't need to really say anything fancy here. We can just say must and leave it at that.
Yeah, so in that case, with the other address is not a SNAC router, then in that case, so then that would have other basically specifications and requirements, and not SNAC router documents.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we really need to talk about it any more than to just say what the SNAC router behavior is, because I don't even know of any, like, there just aren't any counterexamples other than Jen's, which really isn't a counterexample.
Okay. Right, so that sounds good. Okay. Yeah, what would you put here? I'll put myself.
You can assign it to me if you want.
Yeah,
Or,
I'll think about it.
okay, yeah. If you feel like you want me to do it, just send it over to me.
We don't know how fast this will go, of course. Okay, just maybe look at the next one. This one, oh, we already had that one. Sorry, I'm looking at the reviewers. Should send in a single packet. Yeah, version alpha 5. So if we look at that one. Oh, that looks pretty familiar. Ah, okay. It's probably a duplicate. So we've got the same thing there. Okay, then we need to see which one was that, 126. And then see what was the other one. This was 125, I think. Yeah, this one. Maybe some duplication, or we have parts of the spec that are really similar. I think I'm not seeing the assignment here. Let's see, was this assigned? Oh, there. Didn't that work? Somebody unassigned again.
Oh.
Let's check. I don't know. We need to save or something. No, that should work.
No, it should work.
1 to 4. 1 to 4. It's here. Yeah, that works now. Version alpha values. Okay, I'll just sign that, see if that works. 1 to 6. Reload. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, there was also these tutorial review comments. So that's just a bunch of editorial and spelling and references, part of which we have covered, I think. Although I still don't know whether internet should be with capital or not. Maybe you know that, or anyone
so
else.
I think at some point, like the AP style guide changed it, but yeah, exactly.
You can leave that up to the editor.
That's a perfect example of something that we're not qualified to answer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and in fact, anything there that for which the answer is we could leave that up to the editor, it would be fine to just ignore it because the editor will indeed look at it.
Yep, that's right. No, that's fine.
Yeah, you gave an example of like if there's a spelling error, it's important to fix it because otherwise we won't be able to search on it. But aside from that, I think it's not necessary. Hey, if you want to, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so we can assign this to Jonathan. No, I don't know. It's I can also look at this. I'm okay with doing these changes. I'm not sure. Was Jonathan not able to join? Do you know, or?
No, he's here. He's just being very, very quiet because he's smart.
Oh, really? I see. Okay, I see. No, initially,
I'm here.
Hey, initially we had just.
I'm just looking.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Listening in. Okay, that's good. You can still take the editorial issue if you want. But I can also do that.
No pressure.
All right. Now, good that we have some more people joining at least. That's always nice. Yeah, so this was the scrolling around thing that we mentioned. I think we discussed this in a previous call. So there should be a specific way to do this in XML as well. Ted, do you know what it is? Maybe you can just make a comment here how that looks like.
I don't know off the top of my head, but you can just assign that to me and I'll do it. It's not that hard.
All right, I'll do that.
I mean, I know almost exactly what to write. It's just that if I tell you, it's not going to be exactly correct. So
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I was just mentioning that for some browsers you can have specific ways to emulate the same, but clickable links will then at least work. If it looks good and it's easy to use, then it will work in all browsers, of course.
Yep.
So even better, even on the phone. Okay, then we have that one assigned. Yeah, so this was the 139 thing that I mentioned a couple of times. So for strategies to deal with multiple AILs. So we could just skip this for now and then get back to it later if you want, or dive into it.
Sure. Yeah, it sounded like you wanted to discuss that in
Yeah, that
in
will be
Canada.
for Montreal also good.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good topic. You can, of course, yeah. You should have some people there, of course. So I'm not sure how many we will have, but let's see.
Yeah, we may all be remote, except I
Yeah,
imagine Darren will probably be there.
yeah.
Maybe
I still
David.
don't know actually remote or
Okay.
physical. So I'll still have to decide.
Yeah, for me, it's impossible because I've got conferences in Europe on either side, so flying back and forth is just not really
Okay.
viable.
Okay. Something that's not ITF. Ooh.
Well, there's Thread, and then there's also Matter.
Oh yeah.
It turns out Matter finally started scheduling itself not opposite IETF, but that makes my life slightly harder. So
Okay. Right.
yeah. Oh well.
Let's see. So this was issue at multicast text.
Oh right, that was just about documenting the all routers multicast address. I think there was a pull request that had those changes, and then
Right.
maybe that's. Can you click on the PR140? Maybe that's already done.
Let's see. Is this one?
Yeah.
It's issue 140.
Oh, it's issue 140. Sorry.
It's the same one, right? The current issue. Okay, this was a commit here. So this was at least a pull request or a commit. Okay, that has a PR as well. Yeah, so this has the text here. I think was this text. Well, this was about joining the multicast address.
Yeah. The all routers multicast address.
Yeah, so it's basically there. And now I wrote that basically the intention was to take it up in 109. This was here. I first try to join all routers multicast address. That was now assigned to this because you wanted to have that in the state machine.
Right. Yeah. So we can leave it that way. Was it actually assigned to me?
Yeah, it's assigned here. Yeah, you can see.
Okay. Yeah, so we can just leave that. We
Yeah,
left it
I
that
think
way.
I made also the change, hoping that that's correct to call it host-to-host communication here for neighbor solicitation, basically, and other host-to-host.
Yep.
And this also talks about basically RS and other host-to-router and router-to-router communication. So node is now replaced by host, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's a good illustration of why we differentiate between host, node, and router.
Yeah,
Technically, SNAC devices are either routers or nodes. They're not hosts. I mean, they can act as hosts, but basically everything else can act as a host nowadays. So the distinction is a little bit artificial.
yeah,
The RC 4861 does make a clear distinction. So
right. Yeah, you could still have a pure router type device, but it's not the SNAC router.
yeah.
Yes, I think that discussion should conclude. So I was saying, well, it was concluded. So I think we can close this one, assuming it will be taken up by this specific issue there. And the text is also there. So I think that could be closed then. Okay, for Darren as well.
What did I say here? Oh, this was your comment, yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying that the issue here could be closed because we already kind of
Okay.
copy pasted the text into 109, which is then
Okay.
specific about joining of the multicast address.
Good, yeah, let's kill it.
Wow, kill. I would just do close. See if there's a kill option.
Nope.
So
Darn.
it's completed. Close as duplicate. Yeah, duplicate. If you want to be really nice, then we can do it here, 109.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Never used that before. All right. 9. Okay, that's a relatively new one. Yeah, so this is one I basically made last week. Clarify stub resolver and avoid requirements on entity network. Yeah, so I hit this term stub resolver and it was not in the glossary. So I was thinking maybe we need another name for the thing, or we need to define it.
Oh,
Stub resolver.
so that is actually a term of art which is defined in let's see. Let's do RFC 8499. Let's see what it says. Stub resolver, resolver that cannot perform all resolution itself. Stub resolvers generally depend on recursive resolvers to undertake the actual resolution function. Stub resolvers are discussed but not ever fully defined in RFC 1034. They are fully defined in RFC 1123.
Right.
So we have a pretty clear reference there. You can just reference RFC 8499 section 6.
Okay, to reference, I need to repeat the numbers again, I think.
RFC 8499 section 6.
6, okay. Yeah, so should we put it in the terminology name or rather just refer to it on first use? It could also be it's all together,
I think it's fine to just refer to it. I mean, maybe put it in the terminology section in case we want to add more detail, because we're specifically talking about a stub resolver on a host that's trying to do NAT64.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other one is that we have a requirement on an entity that's the stub network. So there's a normative requirement. Where did we have that? Should. Oh yeah, here is stub network that does something, should provide translation. So it seems rather that can we actually have a requirement on the stub network? Should it be like every host in the stub network, or
So we can't really make requirements on hosts in the stub network. It doesn't for a Wi-Fi stub network because it could just be some random host. It doesn't necessarily know that it's like a stub
Right.
network host.
Yeah,
So
the SNAC router maybe was intended then to do this translation.
right.
Okay, so we say the host cannot do it in stub resolver. So then probably the SNAC router on Wi-Fi needs to do it.
Mhm.
The DNS resolver. Okay, yeah. So here's the must honor blah blah blah. Thanks. Okay, so then I think the first requirement is also on the SNAC router. Rephrase, I think. Rephrase requirement to apply to a Wi-Fi SNAC router. And there was also a must requirement without caps here. At the bottom, that's this one, I think. Or this one, actually.
Stub resolver must. What? Okay, that's not correct. It's not a stub resolver here.
See browsing domains for each AIL.
Let's look at this text. Okay, so SRP registrar. SNAC routers must provide SRP registrar services, must be advertised using DNSSD in a legacy browsing domain that is discoverable. Legacy browsing domains. Okay, yeah. So that the second one, the legacy browsing domains entry says stub resolver, but it shouldn't say stub resolver. It should say SNAC router.
Okay. Yeah.
Or the resolver on the SNAC router or something like that.
Yeah. Is that was it recursive resolver?
It certainly is a recursive resolver. So you could say the recursive resolver on the SNAC router.
Yeah. And about the musts, yeah, that maybe.
And must. Well, putting normative language in you could just say advertises. I mean, it's actually a little weird. This isn't actually defining legacy browsing domains.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe that's the real problem with this text. It should define legacy browsing domains since this is. Oh no, sorry, this is services provided. It's not a glossary. So yeah. So in this case, so the SNAC router. I mean, I don't really want to reference a document that's just been started. What this is talking about is a full DNSSD service. So yeah, so since we're talking about services provided, I would say, then this can be normative. You can just say capital must there.
Yeah.
Because we're actually saying what services the SNAC router provides. We should provide a reference for what legacy browsing domains means.
Yeah, that's also my thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be RFC 6763, probably section 11.
What's 67?
6763. Let me just find the section for you. Yeah, section 11.
Okay. Yeah. So I was just thinking, where was this text located? Because I didn't say that, but I think it's somewhere in the back of the document.
What's that?
Yeah, I was just wondering where this text was. Was it in the terminology section or that section?
Oh, the text you're looking at, yeah, is a section called services provided by SNAC routers at the very end. Actually, it's in the it's an appendix section. So It can't have normative text in it.
Oh, yeah, really? So was that in the appendix?
Yeah, maybe this should not be in the. Oh no, sorry, no, it's not in the appendix. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. The section, yeah, so there it would be fine to have normative text.
Mhm.
It would be more strange in the terminology section, I think. But this
Yep.
is okay if it's at the end.
Yep.
And there was another must, this one. I'm not sure, do we know how to do that? List legacy browsing domains. So it needs to discover those, right? Then,
yeah, that is described in RFC 6763 section 11. Yeah, the degree of usefulness of this is, I'm not sure how much. We really need a better answer for these things, and we're not going to solve this in the current document. So I would say, yeah, I think we can't really, we can't really solve that in this document. We should just delete that text, the in addition part.
yeah, so this part, you mean, can be removed then?
Yeah. I mean, I think probably actually. So what we actually do. So for example, in thread, and I think thread is actually a good model here because it's simple, right? It's totally uncomplicated, and all hosts can support it. And what that is we say the zone with the must advertise. We don't actually say this, but what it's doing is advertising a legacy browsing domain. Or yeah. Yeah, this is what we do on thread is that there is a domain default.service.arpa where if you do a query in that domain, it looks things up it looks up whatever has been registered in SRP and whatever exists on any AIL that's discoverable through through MDNS. And I think that addresses the concern.
Okay, yeah, that's the default.
Yeah. Whether we want to actually use default.service.arpa, I don't know. We kind of use that as a quick hack.
Well, that was defined by SRP, yeah?
Right, but it wasn't defined for this use. So we're actually using it without we haven't officially documented anywhere in the IETF that we're using it that way, which since it's only being used that way on thread is okay, but we certainly can't just do that here without doing the work.
Yeah, so basically the SNAC router then would translate the default domain to something else, and you're saying what we did in thread was add the .local domain to that.
Right.
Well, yeah, okay. Isn't that somehow with the discovery proxy that it also defines, but it doesn't have this default domain, right? The discovery proxy doesn't define that.
No, so on thread, there's a discovery proxy and there's just the authoritative database. And on thread, if you do a query to default.service.arpa, it queries both MDNS, that's the discovery proxy function, and it queries the authoritative database maintained by SRP. So both of those get queried in parallel, as if they were the same namespace, even though they kind of aren't. But that's a simple way to do this, and it mostly works.
Okay, yeah.
And in order to solve that problem more thoroughly, I think we need to do some additional work in DNSSD. Stuart had a document called the Discovery Broker that tried to solve this problem, but that hasn't been adopted by the working group and isn't being worked on right now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, just maybe that's a bit of background also for
Mhm.
these browsing domains, advertising and discovery. Okay. So what I think what I can do is the first update of the text, but it maybe doesn't address this part yet.
Okay. If you want to send that to me, I think that's fair since I'm probably the
Yeah.
person that knows the most about it.
You can continue with that maybe.
Yeah, happy to.
Yeah. Let's go to the first attempt, then send to chat. Right. Okay, we have that one, and there was the new one which we talked about in the beginning, state machine layout.
Yeah.
4 state machines.
Yeah. I think it looks like we've gone through all of the
Yeah.
issues. Maybe,
Once.
I don't know. I'd be pretty happy to call it quits here because I need to take a bio break
Yeah.
for my next meeting.
All right, yeah, sounds good. I'm also okay to get going with this.
Do we need to, is there more business to do, Darren or David?
No, I just suggested that we call 139, issue 139 out of scope. That was the multi AIL singles, multi SNAC routers, multi AIL single stub network scenario. I was just going through all you guys' discussion, and it
Oh, yeah.
doesn't sound so
Yeah.
simple to me anymore. It's for consideration.
Yeah. I mean, if we're not going to allow it, we have to have a way to detect it and disable it. So in other words, if you're only connected to one stub network, if you're only allowed to
Do
connect
you?
to one AIL, then what happens if you connect to 2 AILs?
Yeah, you've got default advertised for both, and your traffic is
Dead.
going to go the different AIL. But
Yeah.
presumably, different AIL, different infrastructure network, or same infrastructure network.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
I mean,
So
the-
do we say? So like right now, if we look at the abstract, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of like home user stub network, stub router,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yep.
do we really have? Is it really a use case?
So the cases that I know of where this can happen, one of them was one that ESCO brought up, which is that you can have a stub network that, a home network that gets partitioned in the sense that a piece of it gets unplugged and is no longer connected to the ISP, and then it's basically just a little network with no routing, with no addressing on it at all, no IPv4, no IPv6.
Yeah.
That's one case. The other case is where you've got a home network that has a double NAT. So you've got your customer edge router, which is a piece of crap and nobody wants to use. And so they go
Yeah.
downstream of that and put their own router in.
Yeah.
And if one of the SNAC devices connects to the ISP router and the other one connects to the home router, then you have 2 AILs. So it would be nice to
Right,
be able to
but-
detect that situation.
Okay.
And in that particular situation, one way to address it is to just say, hey, actually, it's great that we noticed that. Let's just turn off the one that we don't want, which I think is probably the ISP router. But even
But
that
then-
is a hard decision to make.
So I've got these 2 SNAC routers.
Mhm.
They're basically just no configuration on them. I don't look at them at all.
Yeah.
I plug them in or they're connecting wrong, right? One's
Mhm.
connecting to the ISP's router, the other's connecting to my router. And what happens? So the stub network is not able to reach, not necessarily able to reach the internet. It's not working as it should.
Right.
So how do we tell whoever's using this thing, if this SNAC simple router,
Mhm.
that it needs to turn off, right? Or one has turned off, right? Like,
Well, I think we need to. That's why. I mean, in the case of a Wi-Fi network, it's actually not that hard, right? You can just notice that the RAs coming out of one router are not congruent with the RAs coming out of another router and say, oh, they must be connected to different uplinks.
Yeah. So who wins? I guess is the, how do you choose who wins?
I mean, it's going to be arbitrary, right?
Yeah.
So I think, it can just be like compare the IP addresses of the routers or something like that and pick the one with the lowest IP address, or, we come up with some other solution if we want, but it's going to have to be something like that, right?
So one essentially shuts itself off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that part, I think necessarily would be in scope, kind of a fallback situation. So not make it work, but at least make sure that one AIL doesn't ruin the experience on the other AIL.
Okay.
So, and then, my take was, okay, the link with the CE router and the DHCP, etc., and the whole shebang, that should win. But yeah, Ted, you mentioned it could be that the user wants the other side to win for discovery.
Yeah, but then I guess then how do they communicate as, well, I guess, they're both gonna pick the lowest or the highest, right? Okay, that'll be the
I mean, one thing that could happen is if you have two stub routers that are both connected to, in that scenario where there's actually IPv6 and prefix delegation available, then they're going to see that the prefixes that they have are sub prefixes of the same / whatever. And we could have some kind of special behavior there. The only issue is service discovery then. And we can't really solve that problem here. So that's, I think the service discovery problem is what really makes it out of scope, not the routing problem.
Right.
And so essentially, what we can do, it's actually sort of easy to detect various scenarios. Like one scenario is we've got two different AILs, one of which is providing routable IPv6 service and one of which is not. If that's the case, we could just say, okay, that one wins, right? And then the second scenario is neither of them is providing routable IPv6 service. And then we just do figure out, whichever stub router advertises its prefix first, or if two of them advertise, we do an election and one of them wins. The other one stops doing it until the first one goes away, right?
What about IPv4 actually? So if one side has IPv4, that one is the internet side, you could say, and the other one not. So that might have some benefit.
Then in that case, what we would expect is that the one that has IPv4 would start advertising that 64, and so we can tell that it's got IPv4. And if we don't have IPv4, then we stop advertising.
Yeah, so it's compliant with SNAC goals, right? So we have connectivity to the internet as goal, so that kind of wins. Yeah. Okay, I wanted to add a sentence here. So you said it was kind of random who wins, or maybe based on numeric address or so?
Well, I mean, the first thing is
address.
Well, the first thing is whoever showed up first. So if there's already something being advertised on the link when the second guy shows up, then the second guy doesn't advertise unless the second guy has better stuff. Like, so on the second router, I show up, I notice there's a first router there because I sent a router solicit, I get a router advertisement back. I look at the router advertisement. If the router advertisement is offering less good service than I would offer, then I offer my service. If, on the other hand, it's offering the same or better service, then I don't. If, however, we get into a situation where both routers are advertising, then the router then we have to just do a numeric election, right? If both services are equivalent. But, So basically, I'm advertising a route. Basically, I'm advertising my SNAC service on the stub network. And then I get an RA from another router. I look at that RA and see if its service would win. And if its service would win, then I stop advertising my service.
So I guess that's the scenario all the time then, right? It doesn't matter who's first or second. I start up, I advertise, I find someone else is there. Oh,
no, that's not what you do.
I stop.
You start up, you do router discovery. You start up, you do router discovery. If router discovery finishes without discovering a router, then you start advertising. At that point, you're in the state where if another thing shows up, an election would happen, except that it should also do router discovery. So in principle, we never have to do an election. In practice, we might. It could be a timing issue.
I have one running on my desk right now. That's doing that.
Uh-oh.
It's an open thread border router.
Okay.
So that follows that process.
Okay. So then that needs to go into the normative text in the in that primary section, right?
Yep.
Where we just say these are the rules.
Mhm.
So, okay. So we have no appendix for this. We update section, whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, this is
Go
probably going to wind up
sections.
going into the state machines. So,
Oh, yeah. Right.
Okay. Do we need more state machines now?
no, it just means the state machines have to be a little smarter, which is fine. I mean, that's what they're there for. So we can put the smarts in a way that is clear.
Best
Okay.
AIL tracker state machine or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's just the router tracker state machine on the AIL.
Yeah, but okay. But there's also the side of you also track what's in the SNAC network, what another SNAC router is offering.
Right.
I think
Those are independent. Like you're going to keep doing the tracking regardless.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
just that in some cases you won't be publishing.
Yep. Okay. All right. So it's not
So-
completely out of scope then, but just to have a sort of a quick fix.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, I think I'll close then the appendix changes without committing them. We have the overall diagram in the in the document now. These changes will go into the state machine that describe the basically the startup and the advertising choice, and that will handle the multi-AIL case.
yeah,
And we have a definite winner.
in a simple way, then
Okay, good.
hope that it works.
Thanks for capturing that. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. I'll comment that, and then we should be done then for today, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Hey, thanks. Yeah.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Okay, and if we have any topics, I see some were sent out to list any topics for meeting in Montreal, please send them to the list. If we just do another editing session like we've been doing in these meetings, I would suggest we do not meet in Montreal.
Yeah.
If we have substantive discussions to be had on more than just the editing topics, then let's get them as soon as we can.
Okay.
SNAC complex topics then, maybe, or is that in scope?
I believe it's still in the charter, so
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Cool.
thank you.
See you later.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.